Hello and welcome to the Amazon QuickSight Learning Series. You are here to spend just a little while with us looking at creating no-code predictive dashboards using Amazon Sagemaker and Amazon QuickSight. My name is Jill Florent. I'm with the QuickSight Customer Success Team, and today's presenters are going to be Vetri Natarajan and Karthik Tharmarajan, who are both QuickSight Specialist Solutions Architects. Let me just go through a couple of quick details. Again, today we're really going to be showcasing for the next half hour how non-technical users can build custom machine learning models using Amazon Sagemaker and visualize those predictive models using Amazon QuickSight. One of the benefits of attending the series live is that our goal will be to answer as many of your questions while we're together here or shortly thereafter as we possibly can. What we do is we use the QuickSight community for that. So if you haven't already signed up for the QuickSight community, it's a great companion to QuickSight itself. It's a great place to find learning resources. In the case of today's discussion, we're going to be using it for Q&A. Many of your questions might actually already be answered within the community. And so what you see here on the screen is a QR code. If you click on that QR, or if you take a picture of that QR code, and then you actually go to the QuickSight community, what you'll see is several different panels. The Q&A one will be where you can either search for a question that might have already been asked and answered. So if I had a question on our donut charts, as an example, I could search there, and you'll see that there are several different questions about donut charts that have already been asked and answered. So I might get an immediate response to my question. You'll see here that this question has a nice little video as to how you can do it. So that's one of the benefits of using the community, is that you might already have an answer ready and waiting for you. If you were going to author your own question, you do have to have an account set up. So take a moment, if you haven't already done so, again, to go ahead and create an account. You do so with an Amazon.com account ID. And then you can give your question a title. And for today, what we recommend is that we're going to use the tag QLS-no-code. And what that will do for us is it will identify you as having attended today's session live. And the team that we have who are moderating the questions will be looking out for questions that have this tag and making sure to do our very best to get your answers to those questions. So just one more quick organizing idea is that we're going to be recording the session today, and as soon as possible after the session, very likely by the end of the week, we will post this to our QuickSight YouTube channel for you to access and go back over the material or share with a colleague. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our first presenter, Karthik.
All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm Karthik Tharmarajan, and I also have my colleague, Vetri Natarajan. Today, we are going to demo how to build a no-code predictive dashboard using Amazon Sagemaker Canvas and Amazon QuickSight. So let's start off by understanding what we will cover today as part of the demo session. We will start off by defining the use case or the business objective for building a no-code predictive dashboard. We will then go over the approach, followed by a demo that will provide detailed steps on how to build a model using Sagemaker Canvas, get that model integrated with QuickSight dataset, and how to use the enhanced dataset in an existing dashboard to include findings from the predictive model. And like Jill mentioned earlier, for any follow-up questions or anything that you want to follow up on based off this session, please try and post your questions on the community with the hashtag. All right, so hospital readmissions. Why is that important, right? So hospital readmissions is an important contributor to total medical expenditures and is an emerging indicator of quality of care. So our objective here is to predict readmission of a patient, which in turn will help improve quality of care and reduce overall medical expenses. So today, I'll assume the role of a non-technical person like a business analyst and see how we can leverage Amazon QuickSight Canvas to build a ML model that can be used by Amazon QuickSight to deliver a predictive dashboard. So let's try to understand how our approach is going to be towards this use case or business objective. In order to achieve our objective, we will break down the process into 4 high-level steps, and these steps will be shared across Amazon Sagemaker and Amazon QuickSight. We will start off on the Amazon Sagemaker side, and we'll begin by creating a standard ML model using Sagemaker Canvas, and then we will get this model deployed using Sagemaker Studio. 2 easy steps. And on the QuickSight side, we will get the deployed model integrated with the QuickSight dataset. And finally, using the augmented dataset, we will build a predictive dashboard to get to our final insights. With that, let's move on to the demo part. Let me launch my AWS console. All right, so I'm on the Sagemaker screen. And let's go ahead and launch our Sagemaker canvas. Let me go to the models. So we will use Sagemaker Canvas and analyze a historical data set representing patient and hospital outcomes, build a ML model to predict hospital readmissions without writing a single line of code. The model has to predict whether the high-risk diabetic patient is likely to get readmitted to hospital after previous encounter within 30 days or after 30 days, or they might not get admitted at all. Since this use case deals with multiple outcomes, this is going to be a multi-class classification problem. I have a model already created. I've named it Diabetes Readmission Predictive Model. But I will show you the steps needed to build or create a model using our sample data set. And for this demo purpose, we are going to use the sample hospital readmission data set. So what we start off by initially is by clicking on the new model button. It's going to prompt to key in a model name. I'm going to go with the default model name. And that will lead us to the next screen with 4 tabs on top. And that kind of indicates the high level 4 steps needed to really build a model and use that for predicting your outcomes. We start off by selecting the data set. So in the bottom half of the screen, you can see I have quick access to the already re-imported data sets. However, if you like to import a new data set, we do have an import option. Clicking on the import button will take us to the next screen where we can upload a file from our local machine or your computer. And even better is if you have access to a S3 bucket, you can pull in your data set from the S3 bucket directly. Like I said, I already have sample data sets imported, so I'm just going to use that. So let's use the diabetic readmission CSV file, and clicking on the data set will propagate to the build tab. So let's spend a few minutes and understand what exactly happens under this tab. So to begin with, we will start off by identifying the target column. So for this data set, we want to predict the readmission option for a patient, right? So we will be using the readmitted column. The model that we will build here will predict the values for this column that we attach to the target column itself. And like I said, there are like 3 outcomes for this column. The patient can get readmitted within 30 days or after 30 days, or they might not get readmitted at all. And Sagemaker Canvas was able to look through this outcomes for this column and pick the appropriate model type. So on the right, it says 3+ category prediction, which is the appropriate model. However, if you wish to change the type of the model that you want to use, you could always do that. let's change or shift our focus to the bottom half of the screen here. So in the bottom half of the screen, you can take a look at some of the statistics of the data set, like unique values, mean and median values. This screen can also be used to drop some of the columns. For example, if you don't want to use a column for prediction, you can simply uncheck, there's an uncheck box on the left, and you can just drop that column. If you want to also dive a little deeper into these column values, you can swap the grid view here. And if you click on the column header, you should get additional information about the column itself, which is good to have, makes you make better decisions on what columns you need to include for your model. All right, so now that we have all of our data sets selected, we have mapped the target column, we have the model selected. We can preview the model. So that will give you a quick, and it will do a quick analysis, and you can also know, what is the accuracy of the model that we are going to use along with the column impact. And once you're satisfied, you are left with two options. You could either do a standard build, which usually takes anywhere between 2 to 4 hours, giving better accuracy, or you could choose to go with a quick build, which usually takes 2 to 5 minutes. But something to keep in mind is, because it's so rapidly built, we may have to compromise on the accuracy. And also please note that you cannot share a quick build model. It has to be a standard model. All right, with that, let's go back to the model screen and choose the model that we have already created. So prior to this demo, I did have like 3 versions for this data set created. Version 1 was my quick build, version 2 and version 3 are my standard build. So from the analyze tab, you will get to know the model status, the accuracy, the column impact, which comes in the bottom half of the screen. And once you're satisfied and you're all good with the changes, you can go ahead and publish your standard model. The 4th tab, the predict tab, it's very useful and handy. If you don't want to go through the whole process of deploying this model, having an endpoint created and integrated with QuickSight, you can quickly upload a data set. Again, you can choose a sample data set or import the data, and then run this new data set from your model that you just built, get the predicted values, output the data set, and quickly use that for rapid dashboard prototyping in QuickSight, while you actually wait for a full-blown production scale deployment to take place, right? So in the interest of time, you can always use this, a very handy feature, I would say. However, if you want to go to a production scale deployment, again, as a business analyst, you might not always have this option or access, but I'm just going to show you the steps. It's just going to be point and click. Up to this point, there's not even a single line of code that we have written. All we did was we just selected the data set. Under the build options, we selected the target column. Canvas was able to associate a model. We were able to get a sneak peek of the column statistics, and if needed, we could add and remove columns based on our requirement. And then we have 2 options, the standard build and the quick build. Quick build is, as the name suggests, comes out with the model very fast, but the accuracy might not be as expected. However, on the flip side, the standard model, the accuracy is going to be much better than the quick build model. Now let's try to get this deployed. So on the top right, you would see the share button. Automatically, the canvas only gives version 2 and version 3 for deployment. Like I mentioned, the quick build cannot be deployed. So I'm just going to walk through the steps. I have already pre-deployed this for our demo, but I'll still go through this process. So clicking on the Create Sagemaker Studio link will give us a link to the Sagemaker Studio. I'm going to use that link. And that will take us to the Sagemaker Studio. And just in 2 steps, I can get this model deployed. So clicking on the best model will take us into the model details screen. And on the top right, again, you see this orange button which says deploy model. So clicking on deploy model, we're going to do the endpoint configuration. Again, all you need is an endpoint name. I'm not going to create the endpoint, but I just wanted to show the only input field here is the endpoint name. If you scroll down and click on the deploy model, it might take anywhere between 2 to 5 minutes for this endpoint to get enabled. Let me show you the endpoint that I already created. So for this demo purpose, we had a standard build, the version 3 that we deployed, and have created an endpoint called QuickSight Demo 2022-08. So these are the steps on the Amazon SageMaker side that you would want to go through. If you want to rapidly build a model, the quick build model will give you quick access to your predictive values. You could upload a file, get the values, output that to QuickSight for quick dashboard prototyping. However, the recommended approach is using the standard build, get it deployed, so you can have a seamless production scale integration with QuickSight. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Vetri, so he will walk us through the QuickSight integration piece of this demo.
Thank you, Karthik.
Sure, Vetri, let me transfer it over to you. Give me a second. Over to you, Vetri.
Yep. Thank you. Let me share my screen, and you can all let me know if you're able to see the screen.
Yep, looks great.
Okay, thank you. So now that we saw how you can create an ML model using SageMaker Canvas and deploy it using the SageMaker Studio, we will see now how you can use that model and create a predictive dashboard in QuickSight. But before we go into that, let us see what we currently have in QuickSight. So the dashboard that you see here on screen is a sample readmissions dashboard that we created. It gives some insights onto the readmissions that is happening in a hospital. And as you can see, there are 70 admissions currently, and out of which 40% of the patients are the readmission patients, which is very well above the threshold that we have set, which is the 20%. So the goal is to reduce the readmission percentage. Right? And this dashboard also gives some insights on the patients who got readmitted, like the distribution by the age and also the distribution by the race. Right? And you can always click on any of this section and see the insights change for that particular section of patients that is of interest. And also at the bottom, you see some of the factors that influence the readmissions, like the number of days, average number of days that the patients spend in the hospital, average number of emergencies that they are into, and number of medications that they take. Right? These insights are great. They give you some look into how the readmissions are being influenced, right? And what kind of patients are likely to get readmitted. But they are all reactive ones, right? And they also doesn't give you the insight at the patient level and let the care providers take some preventive actions to improve the quality of care. So what we will do now is to augment or enhance this dashboard to include patient level predictions so that the care providers can take some actionable some actions on the insights provided. Right. So, but before we get into integrating this dashboard with the SageMaker model that we currently we built, we need to enable QuickSight to access the SageMaker, right? And in order to achieve that, you have to enable it in the QuickSight administrator screen, and this can be done only by the administrators of QuickSight. So you click on the Manage QuickSight. and get into the security and permissions. And here you see that under the QuickSight access to AWS services, for this account, Amazon SageMaker is enabled. So this is something that you have to do as a prerequisite before we enable all the business analysts and non-technical persons to integrate SageMaker with their data, with their dashboard. Right? So now that SageMaker is enabled in this account, let us see how we can enable QuickSight, how we can integrate SageMaker model that we currently developed with the QuickSight. So in QuickSight, the SageMaker integration happens at the data set level. So if you look at the data set here, we have to create a new data set and then integrate the QuickSight, the SageMaker model in that. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and create a new data set. Okay, and I'm going to upload a file. And for this demo purpose, I'm again going to use similar file, the diabetic readmission, and then upload it. So once this file is uploaded, I'm going to go into the data prep screen by clicking on this button. So as you can see, the data set is imported now, and I see an option here called Augment with SageMaker. And this is what we will use to integrate this data set with the SageMaker model we deployed in the first step. So I'm going to click on this Augment with SageMaker, and you can see there are 3 steps here. And in the first step, I'm going to select the model. And when you click on this drop down, you see there are a lot of models that are deployed here from that is pulled from the SageMaker. But if you are going to choose any other models, right, these are all the auto-generated model, and you really cannot use them to integrate with QuickSight. And this is why you need to deploy the model using the SageMaker Studio. And this is the model that was deployed using the SageMaker Studio in the first step. So I'm going to go ahead and select the QS demo 2022-08 model and got deployed. And once you choose the model, the next step is to select a schema file. And what the schema file is basically going to do is it tells QuickSight what is the input or what is the input that it needs to share with SageMaker and what is the output that it can expect in return, right? And there are also other miscellaneous settings that you can make within this JSON file. So let me go ahead and share one of the sample JSON file that we created for this particular model. So if you look at it, this is a sample schema file. So all it contains is the input file. So list of fields that QuickSight needs to send as an input and what is the data type of that particular field, right? So that is the input field. And also what is the output field that is expected from the model, a name and a data type of the field that would come in return. And these are all other settings that you could write by knowing what is the actual model deployment and what are the settings in that particular model. So your SageMaker, the person who has deployed your SageMaker model will be able to provide this information for you. So now since that you have the input and output, we can go ahead and upload this schema file into the QuickSight screen. And one key thing that you need to make sure is that the data type that you define here in the schema file and the data type of that particular field in QuickSight are same. Say, for example, in this field, let us take this change field, and it is defined as a string data type in the schema file. Let us go ahead and upload this schema file and see what happens when there is a mismatch in the data type between dataset and the schema file that we see here. So let me go back to the QuickSight screen and I'm going to upload the schema file, which is a JSON format file, and click the upload button. You can see that QuickSight has read it properly, and it sees the list of fields that that QuickSight needs to share with Sagemaker and what is the data type. And you can see the change field is of the data type string. And also in the output side, you see that readmissions prediction will be fetched as an output from the model, and it is of type string. I'm going to click next. And you see here the fields in the schema and the fields in the data set, right? And there is a mismatch here for this change field, right? The field in the schema says that it is a string of data type string, but what we have in your data set, QuickSight data set, is a numerical field. So you basically have to change this data type for this particular field in your schema file. So let me go back and upload the right version. And now you can see the change field. Sorry, I need to click the upload. And you can see the change field is now of type integer. Now I'm going to click next. And in the review input screen, it seems like the data type matches fine for all the fields that are going to be sent to the Sagemaker studio. And I'm going to click next. And in the review output screen, I see I have an option to change the field name that would be returned from the model. But for this demo purpose, I'm going to just keep it as it is. And I'm going to prepare the data. So you see a message that one field is added to a data set, but the Sagemaker model is still not triggered, right? The Sagemaker model would be triggered only when you save and publish the data set. That is when the first trigger from QuickSight to Sagemaker happens. But before we do that, let us see some of the changes that has happened to this data set after we included that model. The first thing, the Augment with Sagemaker button gets disabled because we already included a model here, and we are fetching one output field, which is the readmission prediction. You can always click on this ellipsis here and click manage to go ahead and change any settings if you want. I'm going to click cancel here. So, and then you also see in the preview screen, there is one more new field that is created, readmission prediction, right? So the prediction output from the model is already included as part of the data set's output, right? Now I'm going to click save and publish. So the data set is saved and published successfully. Let me rename this as the demo and publish it again. So now we successfully integrated the Sagemaker model that got deployed with QuickSight at the dataset level. And QuickSight executes this prediction for all the rows that is present in this particular dataset and updates this readmission prediction column. So now let's go back here, go to the dataset, and you see that this is the dataset that we currently created, which is created a few seconds ago. And if you look at it, it is still in progress, right? It will take several minutes for the model to run and update the prediction field. But in the interest of the time, to show how we can include this predicted field in our dashboard, let us go ahead and use one of the datasets that we already created using the same process, and it is successfully refreshed, right? So what I'm going to do is we will just augment the dashboard that we saw in the beginning of this demo, which is the reactive dashboard, and we are going to enhance that or extend that particular dashboard with some predictions, right? So here we already pre-built a dashboard. So it includes all the other insights that we had previously, And also now it has some patient level information also listed. It might look like a simple table at the patient level, but what you have to look at is the readmission prediction that we fetched from the Sagemaker's model output is also present here. So rather than a reactive dashboard, this dashboard now has become a predictive dashboard at the patient level. It helps you predict who are all the patients who are at the risk of readmissions and make sure that you will be able to give some special focus on those patients. Say, for example, the patient 1013, this patient is at the risk of readmission, right, within the 30 days. So now the care provider will have some actionable insights that will help them make some preventive care and give some and improve or prevent the readmissions percentage by working at the patient's level. And you can see here that in this dashboard we are just highlighting the patients who are at the risk of readmission so that it is easier for us to identify and focus on those patients and improve the overall quality of care. So now just to summarize what we have achieved here. So this is what we have, right? So this is how the table looked in the beginning, the dashboard looked in the beginning. So it was a reactive dashboard, and by integrating with the Sagemaker model with no code, we are able to convert this reactive dashboard into a predictive or a preventive care dashboard that can work at the patient level and improve the quality of care and reduce the readmissions rate for this particular hospital. So that concludes our demo. And with that, I will hand it over back to Jill. So to take it forward.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that explanation. I'm sure all of our attendees do as well. You made it very clear. I am going to just say a couple of closing remarks. We have put into the chat window a survey form. We strive to get better all the time with these webinars, and so hopefully the learning that's taken place here has been really helpful for you. I do want to also say that we are doing a number of these learning series workshops. So if you wanted to go back to the community, one of the things that we do highlight as well is the upcoming events. And so again, our model is let's connect every so often for these expert sessions where you can learn something new. You can get your questions answered through the community during the session, and any posts that you make with the QLS-no code tag will be looked for specifically by our subject matter experts. And so hope to see you again soon, and thank you so much everybody for your time. This will conclude today's learning series.